Welcome to the Bells I Hear podcast. We will speak with experts who will debunk the myths and misconceptions surrounding homelessness and highlight the innovative approaches for addressing the issues, causes, and consequences of housing insecurity. I'm Elisa Smith, your host, a mentor, professor of legal studies, and former public defender. Thanks for tuning in to the Bells I Hear. Welcome to the Bells I Hear. I'm Elisa Smith, the host, and today we are focusing on a program that uniquely supports people who are experiencing homelessness. We are joined by Mary Carl, the CEO of Miracle Messages, and Astara Pearson, the VP of the Advisory Council, who began helping those in need as a teenager, overcame personal challenges, and now is committed to addressing the needs of those experiencing homelessness. Mary and Astara will tell us about how Miracle Messages support people experiencing homelessness, rebuilding their social networks, encouraging financial security, family unification, developing a phone buddy system, and providing a basic income pilot program. Thank you for joining us today, Mary and Astara.
Happy to be for having us.
Yes, it's quite a lot that Miracle Messages does, so I'm going to dive right in. And since there's two of you, please feel free to elaborate on your answers or piggyback on responses. But I do want to start with the book that the founder of Miracle Messages wrote, When We Walk By. I was inspired by that book. There was something that was said in that book that really struck me. And it was this idea about language, how we talk about homelessness, and the importance of using person-first language. And like people experiencing homelessness, as you saw in the introduction, I use that kind of language, people experiencing homelessness. Can you tell us why that simple change in language is critical and important? Either one. Mary?
Sure, I'm happy to listen, but I'd love to hear what you have to say on this too. I mean, I think it's when we are seeing the person first, and homelessness is something that people experience versus that being the defining factor for somebody, and it just shifts. I mean, immediately by it's like John who is experiencing homelessness. You're seeing John versus circumstance of homelessness being the defining factor, and I think you can apply that in all sorts of different components of one life. You very seldom talk about I am a person with cancer. I'm cancer. Just use the same language. It's very important. So, but Sarah, I'd love to hear what you have to say about this too.
Yeah, I think that really struck me about Miracle Messages as well when I first got involved with them. Because prior to that point, I almost felt like invisible in a sense, or overlooked in a lot of ways. And it was frustrating that people were putting me into this box as opposed to viewing me as the person that I was, with all of these experiences and hopes and dreams, and just there was a lot more behind who I was as opposed to like what I was going through. And so I think it's really important to acknowledge the people versus their circumstances.
Yeah. It was powerful to read, and not the only important thing of that came out of that book. I know that you had some involvement in the developing of it, the stories, and I want to talk about Miracle Messages that started in 2014. I don't remember when the book was published. It was published before, or I think it was published after the creation of Miracle Messages. Yeah, certainly. Yes. And so, can you tell us about what inspired Miracle Messages, how that came about, and all those different components that are involved in all that you do?
Yes. So Kevin, who is the founder of our organization, speaks often about his uncle who had experienced homelessness, and it was through the passing of his uncle and really understanding and coming to terms with this person that he has loved and had a dear relationship with, and he saw his uncle and his relationship with his uncle, and then started to then transfer that to like, well, who else am I walking by? Whose uncle am I passing on the streets? And so that's kind of like that framing is really what Kevin brought to the work to help establish the organization. And then also, early on, he, took that framing and then had people who were experiencing homelessness. They were wearing GoPro videos, and that was where they were starting to people who were living on the streets. And so when Kevin captured, people start to identify that they didn't realize, persons shared that they didn't realize that they were homeless when they lost their housing, but it wasn't until they lost their friends and family that they really identified that they were homeless. And so that was really like a profound moment in the trajectory of our organization, which led to the start of Miracle Messages, and then also subsequently the book that Kevin wrote. And so the organization is really trying to support individuals in reinforcing, reestablishing relationships with their friends and family that they've lost during their journey, and so we support them in reunifying with their loved ones, with our reunion program, and then sometimes friends and family need more than friends and family that you've had historically, and or you're not able to reconnect with people for various reasons. And so we established our Miracle Friend program, which is where we pair individuals who are experiencing homelessness with our house community, and they're able to connect with each other virtually through phone calls and text messages, and then occasionally they're able to see each other in person, depending on the comfort and the location people actually live.
And are those people that are volunteers in the community that say, I want to work with this phone buddy system where I develop, and they do develop relationships, right? These are not like one-offs; they're long-term relationships.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know, Astara, if you want to share anything about. You had a Miracle Friend within Miracle Messages. If you'd want to share anything about that relationship or what you've heard from other people that you've encountered along the way.
Yeah. The Miracle Friend program, for me, it was kind of like a light in the dark. Like when I was living in the shelter in San Francisco, I developed a good friendship with my Miracle buddy, and she was a med student in Texas, and so we got to get to know each other, and it was cool because, I mean, I had somebody that I could talk to who kind of already knew about my situation, and I felt like I could be open and honest in ways that I couldn't with a lot of other people. And she was really understanding and compassionate. And then she also learned a lot from our friendship as well. She expressed just being able to get that insight, and I mean, she even had some personal development along the way throughout our friendship.
Yeah, so there's a mutuality, right? It's a reciprocal relationship. It's not one-sided. It's
yeah, it was a friendship. We would have phone calls and talk, and
wow.
Yeah, I mean, it made a big difference as well. I've spoken in the past about how I struggled quite a bit socially, which contributed to me experiencing homelessness. And so when I finally realized, like, I need this support network, and I need to learn how to have a community and have people that I can rely on, like emotionally, and it was a wonderful opportunity to kind of have a safe space to learn that within myself. as well.
How long was your relationship with her?
I think it was about a year or two. I transitioned into housing, and then I had a bunch of stuff happening in my personal life, and so did she as well. Like school started to change for her and things like that, and so eventually we did like fall out of contact. But I mean, I'm sure if I reached back out to her, it would
Sure.
be a warm.
That's like any other friendship, right? That happens. There's an ebb and a flow. We get busy, we have lives, and then you can reconnect. So, I mean, it's like any other friendship, really.
Yeah.
That's it's an amazing, interesting program, and even the title of the book, when we walk by, because so many of us do, right? We see people on the street and we walk by. And I think that was the other thing that struck me, is that what Miracle Messages has done is connected people. It's also reminded us that these are people that have lives and they have friends, or they need relationships. It's not just about housing and food and those basic, we need those, but we need more than that, right? We need these relationships.
Yeah, I mean, two things come to mind with what you just shared, and one is that we at our organization, we really look at homelessness not just being a housing crisis, but a social connection crisis, and starting to identify those relationships and how key they are. It doesn't mean that you don't address all those other pieces, but you also can't ignore this fundamental component of our species. And then the other thing is just going back to the language of having person-centered language. I think one of the things I've been with the organization now just over 2 years, and the language that really struck me as I, having been in the space, or the homeless service space for quite a while, was just the utilization of language of neighbors. And I think that's really important, that as a neighbor, there is a responsibility that I have within, and I think that is, it almost makes that walking by a little bit more challenging, and a collective responsibility as you with any of your other neighbors. And so I just think that it's an important shift, simple but yet fundamentally important shift in how we see people, regardless of their housing status.
Yeah. And I do want to come back to the video recording, but before we do, one thing that Astara said is that the person that she was communicating with was in Texas. And Astara, you were in California, right?
Yes.
So these are connections. This is not just a California program, is it?
Yeah, we are national. So yes, so our volunteers are from all over the country. We are able to support people who are navigating into and out of homelessness from anywhere in the country too. So we have services all over the place.
Wow. And so tell me about the video recording, the GoPro, when they were recording, and what some of the things that happened from doing that. I think there were a couple of stories, at least that I remember from the book, success stories.
Yeah. So I mean, the one definitely that I mentioned earlier was just this fundamental shift in how we are even, where we are focusing our supports. And then I think the other piece is just that really struck me as I've come to the organization. It's just, and not surprisingly, but just the amount of people are just completely ignored, and just to kind of experience like that navigation. So, yeah. I don't know, Sarah, if there's anything that you'd like to add.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't get to see the results of the video, the GoPro conquest, I guess, that Kevin had set out upon. I don't know if that was the right use of words, but I know that I've personally witnessed that the people ignoring, like almost like having that invisibility over them. whether that was personally or, you know, seeing other people who were dealing with the same thing. And actually, I do think that that can be quite dangerous at times. I remember in San Francisco, there was a distinct moment where somebody was having like a very outward mental health crisis. And I don't know, I felt like it was because there was like this, everyone was like trying their best to like look away from him, and he was just escalating more and more. And so I don't condone smoking. I think it's bad for you. But I was smoking at the time, and I approached him and I said, "Hey, do you want a cigarette? Do you want to talk?" And like it melted that whole moment, and he was able to calm down. And I've seen that same kind of situation play out in many different ways, where people are trying their best to ignore like these rapidly escalating situations, and it doesn't help. And I think that that's because it's part of the problem.
I mean, that kind of puts the exclamation point on the idea of relationships, right? Even just having a conversation, that moment in time can be a sufficient relationship to de-escalate a situation so someone could feel heard and seen, which is which is important, essential, critical. I thought there was also I remember vividly in the book that he was interviewing people or having them tell their stories, and there were some instances, because you have also a family reunification program, where there were some connections with people, like family didn't even know that their loved one was struggling, and then they learned about it through this program.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and so that was I think so the GoPro, I think, created the acknowledgement of that disconnect within families and how important that was. And so then Kevin was then walking around and talking to people who were on the street. And somebody had identified that they wanted to reconnect with their family. And so then they posted that video on Facebook. And then within a very short period of time, the family was able, not only did the family, I think it was like the sister got tagged in the post, but then other people within the community were starting to come in and trickle in and being like, wanted to support them, and connecting them to employment, other pieces. And so within a very short period of time, not only was the family reconnected, but then also the community, that larger place where that person came from, they were reconnected. And I think, really, over the years that has continued to happen. And at this point, we've been able to support over 1,100 people reconnect with their loved ones nationally. Yeah. And often been where they've been disconnected for 15 years or longer. We definitely have moved away from posting videos on social media. I think that was like some early on like learning, and I think now we have these incredible volunteers who we call our digital detectives, and they gather some key pieces of information, and then they're able to locate and help facilitate that process with people. And
it's not easy, right? Because some people live in California, and then their families in Pennsylvania, and that's part of what the disconnection has become, right? You're far from their social support network.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, Astara, like if we supported you in reconnecting with your family. I don't know if you want to share any of that experience.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't, I would say it was a similar situation in where my mom was in Missouri, and then I was in California. But I would say it's a bit different than those particular cases that you were talking about, because my mom was actually the one that had disappeared. She had gone to prison, and then when she got out, she went into a rehab and completely disappeared off the face of the earth. But we had been out of contact for I think 2 or 3 years at that point. It was somewhere in there. But she like completely disappeared. They found her off of a really random email that didn't have her name or anything like that. I was really impressed, to be honest, but it was that actually helped tremendously in like my sense of self-improvement and even just continued growth since then. I've since gone back to Missouri to continue working on the development of this relationship and healing some of these older wounds that have been present for a long time.
Yeah.
And that has provided like me and my mom and or with a sense of stability, and has kind of bled out into the rest of my family. Like it's been really cool to see what that like gathering of community has done for all of us.
Yeah. It's like this ripple effect, right? So it's helping and healing one person, and then two people, then three people, then family and a community, right? It has long lasting positive effects.
Yeah, and it also
Yeah.
really it gives this spark of inspiration, a drive to keep going forward with that. I know that seeing that ripple effect has really instilled this desire to continue building positive community relationships for me.
Yeah. And you know, I saw somewhere, I think when I was preparing for this, that you have a philosophy, and just going to read it because I haven't memorized it, that speaking openly about one life struggles, such as homelessness and inequality, can foster deeper healing and build a stronger community for future generations. And it sounds like that's what you're talking about. Can you tell us a little bit more about that philosophy and how it connects with miracle messages, or how it's affected your life and how you're giving back?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, so the part of that philosophy was based on the Jungian principle of having like repressed parts of self. If you can't see them, then they kind of take the steering wheel and you don't recognize it. And I think since it's so relevant, being able to speak about that with people, it gives them the courage to maybe do that themselves and to give grace to others, and recognize that maybe there's a lot more at play than just like what's on the surface level. And it helps in addressing people, having these experiences of homelessness, the root cause of it all. I'm so sorry. Can you repeat the last part of that question?
I think just how it's inspiring you to stay connected with miracle messages and do the work that you're doing.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
No, that's okay. It was a lot. I had asked too many questions in one. Sorry.
No. My brain is. I'm trying my best.
You're doing great. I know you said you had a little cold. I can't tell at all. You sound
Okay,
sharp
that's
to
good.
me. Sharper than me.
Um, the yeah, I think that being able to have this voice within Miracle Messages is probably one of the most how do I say it? Like innovative and impactful ways that I've seen an organization do something like this. It provides a really raw and like transparent look into the people behind, the stigma, behind the labels, that when it's just when the issue is summed up as just like the homeless, addicts, mental health crises, like it keeps those inner workings, the root causes and root issues from really being seen. And when that happens, you can't address them. And so that's kind of why that personal philosophy, I think, ties in well with this opportunity that I've been given to help with Miracle Messages.
Yeah, it does. It's very consistent. And there is one more program that I don't think we've touched on. It was like, you probably have a miracle thing in there. You'll tell me what it
Miracle
is, but
Money.
it's Miracle Money. I know it was like these basic income, but I knew you had a miracle thing in there.
Yeah, we're pretty consistent with our naming. Yes.
I know. That's smart. It's good marketing.
Yeah.
So tell me where that came from, and because I know that this is a relationship issue, but this part has also been successful in terms of helping people to get into transitional housing and get stability. And it's not a lot of money, is it? It's a small amount of money that can really help people.
Yeah, so about 5 years ago, our volunteers were and our miracle friends were coming in and identifying this this elephant in the room, that there is still, as we're starting to develop these relationships, there's still this, we can't ignore the fact that there is this financial challenge that people are navigating, and so we started a basic income pilot with 14 individuals. At that time, they received $500 for 6 months. And it was the first basic income program that focused on individuals who were navigating through homelessness in the country. And since then, we've been able to do a formal randomized control trial with our partners at the University of Southern California. And that concluded about a year ago. And then we've now continued to do additional distributions of cash to both people who are in the Miracle Friend program and then also in partnership with other nonprofits. And, at the end of the day, financial resources, basic income helps alleviate poverty. Like you can't take that away, that the money supports that. But what we're really looking at in our organization is how does money operate almost as a cash plus approach. So you really do need to be working in partnership with other services who are supporting more of what I would consider wraparound supports within the communities that the person is living in, plus relationships, plus financial income. And that really allows for us to see the increase in stability, housing, mental health, physical health, financial stability, and that's where we've been really to see the biggest impact from the work. And we've supported individuals from $500 a month. We've had some programs that have been at $300 a month for a year, and then the most that we've given $750 a month for a year. And yes, I mean the results have been pretty profound. And I would say that one of the biggest learning for me as an individual coming into this space is just how important it is for people to be able to utilize money to help support those that they care for, or for causes that they care for. A lot of the assistance, people are able to support their friends and family. They're able to take their friends, their family members, either to a baseball game or out to eat for the first time in a long time. And that really, and for us, with our focus really around that relational strength and relational resilience, is a really important finding for us to really see that that the money does to help to foster that support and that area. So,
And it gives people a sense of independence too, and agency, right? Agency on, they're just, instead of saying, this is what we are giving you, these 3 cans of soup and this pasta, this box of pasta, people get to make those choices. It's very empowering.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
And it sounds very holistic, like you're taking a holistic approach. It's the basic income, it's housing, it's relationships, those kinds of things. One of the other things that we try to do on the podcast is we try to clear up misconceptions. And I think you both touched on a few myths and misconceptions surrounding homelessness. But can you identify one that gets stuck in your craw, like something that keeps getting perpetuated that's false in terms of people experiencing homelessness? I'll let Astara, why don't you go first?
Yeah.
I think Mary's looking at you, so go ahead.
Yes. Well, I would say probably the number one that I came across was that all people who are homeless are on drugs. That's the one that I heard very consistently. And when I was in the shelter, I didn't use any substances when I was homeless. And I knew a lot of other people who didn't. I mean, it's circumstantial, and it's so it's such a wide umbrella as well. It can affect a number of different people with PhDs, master degrees, government jobs at one point. Like those were all people that I had known. Um, I also, the weird one that I heard a lot was that uh, people who are homeless want to be outside is, and I thought that that was just a really bizarre justification.
Like it's a choice.
Yeah,
People are choosing. Right.
yeah, and I mean, I think a lot of it too is it kind of ties into how that invisible factor. Like if people who are experiencing homelessness are kind of written off and not really allowed to talk about their experiences, then it's difficult for those misconceptions to be cleared up with the general public if they're not really seeking those answers out, or if
Yeah.
there's not wonderful people who are advocating for those who are going through those experiences.
Yeah, I do think it's, going back to the language that I started this conversation with, is that I think once those kinds of narratives get entrenched in our dialogue, I think it's really hard for people to see things in other ways. That narrative is so strong. So you do have to have these messages sent out again and again to say, no, that's not what's happening. These are myths. Mary, is there any myths or misconceptions that you've confronted that kind of are perpetuated that are not true?
Yeah. I mean, I think you could apply what Astara mentioned to like so many different areas around like, substance use, mental health. I think, deservedness falls into that category too.
Like this is a personal failure kind of.
Like you've made bad choices or, and I think for me, the one that I would actually like pull back at is like that nothing can be done. I feel like it's too big of a problem. We can't do anything. Like, and I think that's what's really important about the work that we're doing. That like now, actually, we all need to do something, and it's our responsibility as neighbors to do something. And it starts with like seeing people as people, and being in community and relationship with them. I think that like, and that's really important because I think this people I see society communities almost get immobilized with like the daunting factors around homelessness, especially in some of the more metropolitan areas like New York or San Francisco or Seattle, LA. So I think it's just important that people, we have a responsibility and we can do something.
Yeah. And again, changing that messaging that this is a solvable problem, that there are things that people can do, because you're right, if it feels like it's so big, then we just don't do anything.
Yeah.
Or we think somebody else will solve it.
That's right.
It's someone else will solve. I did like that. I guess I didn't realize that you had been working with the local university to get some empirical data too, to show that there is success, because I think that's important too, to get that out.
Yeah. So we've been really have had some incredible partners. Like I mentioned with USC. We've also done some work with UNC around our work, and honestly, also just like we've got incredible partners. We have the Housing for Health Santa Cruz County have been incredible partners with us to really think about like how not only like that relationships are a piece of the puzzle, but what is the impact of it. And that this needs to be a core component of our services that we're providing around homeless services.
So that leads to what new initiatives, what's on the horizon for Miracle Messages? Is there something new they're going to be working on or scaling up, or what's happening?
Yeah, so we are looking to. I mean, we really believe that relational supports and miracle messages as a part of that can be brought into any community that is supporting individuals who are navigating through homelessness. And so we've been really excited to be partnering with new chapters where volunteers are raising their hands to bring miracle messages to their community, which has brought us to communities like Burlington, Vermont last year, We're starting in Phoenix, Arizona, Dallas, Texas. So it's just like really new communities where we're being brought in, and we're really excited to continue to do that work. And then the other piece that I would mention is that this next year we will be starting another wave of our Miracle Money program. And so in the fall, we'll be sharing some more information about that too. And then the last thing that I would mention is we have, so our founder, Kevin, and his co-author of When We Walk By, in addition to Astara and some of the other MAC members, have been a part of creating a follow-up workbook to the book that he wrote, and that will be released in the fall of this year. And so we'll be really excited to share more information about that. And so
that's can you just tell me a little bit more about that? I mean, in my other life, I'm a professor, so I hear workbook and I think, oh, homework assignment.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
what does that mean? What is it? Tell me more about that.
Jump in, Sarah?
Yeah. So essentially, it was me, the president, Bonnie Bowl, and our secretary, Taro McMillian. We were invited to help Kevin and Donald to kind of expand upon When We Walk By. So they added a bunch more data from studies, as well as like guided questions if people wanted to get together in a group and discuss further. A lot of like just provocative, like thought-provoking questions and discussions. There's like personal and group exercises in the book, and it just adds a lot of additional flavor, I guess, to what's already there.
Yeah.
A lot of extra context and material. It's
I love
it's
this.
really cool.
Yeah. It's great. And so I'm going to belabor this just a bit. So what's your vision for it rolling? Like, I'm thinking about teaching my college classes, but what was your vision? Like, are you thinking like webinars where groups of people, or is it going to be used for training? Like, what's the vision for? I love
I think,
it.
yeah. So I mean, I think it's a little bit of all of that, but I think the idea of connecting it to a college curriculum was definitely front of the mind of like, how do we start to equip individuals with tools and questions for their own journey? But honestly, I mean, I look at this as somebody, as I mentioned, supporting homeless services for years. And I mean, we're always in this, I am always in the space of self-reflection and my own work in this space. And I think that it is a tool that I would encourage people to reflect on and to continue to pull up and look at how you are in community, in partnership, in relationship with individuals. And so, but yeah, absolutely. We got not 100% sure about the webinar piece, but we will have some videos connected to it, and really looking at there being some narrative in addition to the questions that people will be able to use. So yeah.
And this is available fall of 26.
Yes, so in September. Yep.
September of 26. And Star, I'm sorry, you were going to say something. Go ahead.
Yes. I forgot to mention probably one of the coolest features of the book. Well, actually, there's two. So we have personal stories that tie into each section from me, Bonnie, and Taro that kind of link into what's talked about. So like youth in foster care connected to the relevance of experiencing homelessness later on is just the first one that came to my brain, as well as there are sections for actions that you can take to maybe help within your community.
Well, that's a great segue to what was my last question for you, Star, and that is, so that's perfect. Like, if we were playing volleyball, you set me up. Not that I know anything about volleyball. That was about the extent of my knowledge, actually. So I was going to ask if people either needed support or wanted to volunteer, how would they go about about getting the information that they would need from your, now we know they have a workbook coming. How would they go about getting support or volunteering with Miracle Messages? Did you want to
Do you want
answer?
to jump into, Sarah?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. You can come to our website, miraclemessages.org would be the best way if, for individuals to access our services. And then we have a 1-800 number that people can also contact. And I'm sorry, I'm totally blanking the name. Astara, what is that? What is her? It's like 1-800. I'm just at this moment I blanked.
1-800 miss you.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
Oh.
1-800 miss you. I'm like, so it's like.
You were probably thinking, is it Miracle? It's not Miracle.
No. I was like, it just completely escaped me. I was like getting, I got like, anyway, so 1-800 miss you. And so if you want to contact that number, as an individual who wants to navigate through services or as a volunteer, you can contact that number too.
Great.
But yes, and we would, we've mentioned earlier, anywhere in the country, if you want to volunteer or you want support from Miracle Messages, we are able to help support you. So please feel free to reach out, both as somebody who's navigating through homelessness, or as somebody who's wanting to help be a neighbor in relationship with their unhoused neighbors.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for this conversation. I really appreciate your time and all the work you're doing, Mary and Astara, to help. It's such a unique program, and I'm so glad to hear that it's growing nationally and it's accessible to more and more people. So thanks again for joining us today on The Bells I Hear.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for tuning in to the Bells I Hear podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to the Bells I Hear and follow us on social media. We post all of our conversations on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. You can connect with us on Instagram and post comments or questions that we can address on upcoming shows. More information can also be found on Blogger and Substack. So many ways to learn about the issues surrounding housing insecurity. Please join us and contribute to the conversation.